Hello, my fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the thunderwizard.com channel. So this is the solar flash update for September 27th. It's actually September 28th where I live, but if you're in the States watching this live, it is the 27th for you. So we're going to be talking about who knows what we're going to be talking about, because as you know, I go off on tangents. But I'm going to be focusing on the shift that I feel has happened since the 23rd. And the ascension process, I believe, is now accelerating. It's gathering steam. And it's moving faster and faster towards wherever we're heading. If you want to call it 5D, go right ahead. So that shift is now. This is the best way to look at it. And today I'm going to once again revisit things that you must do in order to transcend the third dimension. Hello and welcome back to the channel. All right, so September 23rd was, for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I felt a huge shift happen. Leading up to the 23rd, for me, things were very challenging. Emotionally, psychologically, I felt a huge amount of pressure. I felt like a lot of the old 3D programming was really coming to the surface. You know, self-hatred, self-devaluation, doubt, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of isolation. These things were coming to the surface. Of course, I was coming up on my 60th birthday. Birthdays for me are never very good because, you know, I had some bad experiences with that when I was a kid. So that always pushes old buttons. So it could have just been me, but I don't think so. As I said, I personally know people who have completely, totally lost their minds and are completely overtaken with stress, self-devaluation, and completely, in some cases, nuking and destroying their lives. If we're not talking about somebody outrightly, completely just like destroying their life, people are starting to slip back into self-devaluation. For example, let's say you're somebody who has followed my suggestions about listening to your soul, and let's say you started moving in a direction where you started creating a living that was based on doing the things that you loved, and you started getting success. If you were one of these people, and then over the past few months, maybe even few weeks, you find yourself going back to doing things from a place of caution and not feeling motivated. Like it feels like you're walking in mud, trying to go towards what you want. My belief is that what has been happening is the energetic pressure on us to shift into a 5D mindset has been bringing all of these things to the surface. Sort of like, you know, you got one of those pimples that are really deep and you got it, you know, hurts like hell. It's like that. It's just things just coming to the surface that are really working to hold us back. And then for me, once I got past the 23rd, I felt a huge relief. I felt things shifting in another direction. So as you know, Vedic astrology has been saying that the 23rd was significant. Nothing on the political stage that we know of happened. Nothing major happened. I think tons of things are going on under the surface. I do believe that there is a battle between forces of good and forces of darkness in deep underground in the political sector. We'll find out if that's true, but I think that there are people within or have access to these, what we call the deep state, that are actually working to create a revolution within that and to get rid of that. And I think that those forces, at least I feel that those forces have, the good forces have made a lot of headway. So I feel that happening. But we still have the issue of just the human being, the human psyche, having to shift over to this new fifth dimension that's coming. And that in and of itself is going to be a problem if you are still enmired, enmeshed in the three-dimensional self-devaluation survival program. Your instincts, your 3D instincts are pushing against freedom and happiness and consciousness. And so that's potentially going to get worse, or you're going to feel it more. But I think there's more energy available to us now to take a hold of if we make the choice to shift. And hopefully I'll remember to talk about this, but it's really important to understand that everything that happens in your world, including everything in your physical reality, is a result of, at the very least, an unconscious choice that you have made. You may not be aware of the choices you have made. Maybe you are aware. If you're conscious, you are aware of the choices you've made. But if you're still got some unconscious negative programming running your world, then you won't be consciously aware of the deliberate choices you have made to put you where you are. And if the messages that have come to me are accurate, and or if I'm interpreting them correctly, which listen, I'm not a prophet, I don't know. But if a solar flash event comes, okay? So maybe we'll get to all of that today. Before I go any deeper, please understand that this channel is not about you listening to me talk. Please know that. Listening to me talk is only designed to do one thing, which is to motivate you to take the actions and make the life choices and shift your energy so that you will have everything you want. It's the only reason to listen to me. So if you're just listening to me and you're not taking advantage of the tools that I'm making available to you, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. Easily 95% of the benefits that come to you from watching this channel come from doing the actions. So before you do anything else, if you're new to the channel, go to the free YouTube, Thunder Wizard YouTube page where you find the playlists. And on the playlists, I want you to do at least three things. First thing I want you to do is I want you to go to the energy practices. You can do the Awakening the Immortals, which is free. By the way, I'd be well within my rights to charge thousands of dollars to teach that one-on-one, but I'm giving it away for free. It's probably the most powerful free practice you'll ever find. You can do the Huul breath, H-U-U-L, incredibly simple, extremely healing, an all-purpose practice that is the basis of all the energy practices that we do. So you can do the Qigong practices. I recommend that. I also recommend that you go to the folder that says Interdimensional Meditation. Do the free interdimensional guided meditations. All you have to do is just close your eyes and press play and just follow my voice and go through the imagination process. If you do that, there's a very good chance your entire reality will completely shift. And then the third thing that I recommend is that you go to the 12 steps to 5D. You start doing those. Now, maybe that's a lot for you to do, but those three are probably the most important, and you should be doing at least something within those three playlists. Now, if you like the energy that you get, if you feel a change, bear in mind, sometimes a lot of your old stuff will come to the surface. You might feel resistance of all kinds. You might feel angry, afraid, bored, anxious. That's a good sign. If you're taking positive action and those feelings come up, it means that you're psychologically detoxing. If you eat bad fish, you don't want to stop yourself from throwing up. You don't like throwing up, but once you finish throwing up all the bad shrimp you've eaten, you feel a lot better. So when you do the practices and the anxiety and the other things come up, that's emotional, energetic, psychological detox. Keep doing it, because you're going to feel huge relief. when you get through those phases. When you're dead serious, you felt the energy and you know that it works. You're dead serious and you want to achieve the kinds of things that I have achieved. Then I recommend you go here to thunderwizard.com, scroll around and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. It's very simple. You just follow the directions. There are multiple phases. You just press play and do what I do. That's it. It couldn't be more simple and it couldn't be more powerful. We also have other things available for you. We have all of my books, michaelwilliamdenny.com. The Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life, the most important book you'll ever read. Extraterrestrials are coming to Earth, Interdimensional Revolution. If you're stuck in religious doubts, then read Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward, so you know why religion has destroyed your ability to believe and trust in the universe. And we've got courses.thunderwizard.com, and I'm still keeping the 923.thunderwizard.com. Now, it's not as cheap as it was because we survived the 23rd, but you can still save something like, I don't know, thousands, $2,500, $3,000, crazy amount of money. All of my videos, 923.thunderwizard.com. All right, so Solar Flash Update 27, Ascension cannot be stopped. That's the feeling that I have now. The feeling that I have now is that, you know, once you push the boulder over the top of the hill, all you have to do is just tap it, and then it starts rolling downhill, and God's help anybody that gets between that boulder and the bottom of the hill. This isn't something I don't think we can stop. The question is whether or not the boulder is going to run you over. Because if you're not going in the direction of your soul, you're standing in front of that boulder as it's coming down the hill. It's going to take you out. It's going to roll right over you. The universe is not codependent. In other words, the universe does not co-sign your self-destruction. I mentioned some people in my life that are completely going bonkers and losing their minds. They've completely lost it. And, you know, when you try to just suggest, you know, maybe you're not seeing things accurately, they completely flip out. And they get so angry with you and they cut you off. I'm never talking to you again. I hate your guts. You're a horrible person. And all you did was just ask a question like, is it possible you're seeing things in an inaccurate way? And to be codependent would be to say, okay, no, you're right. Go ahead. Yeah, it's okay to keep hitting yourself in the head with a hammer. I know that's killing all of the spiders that are crawling across your forehead that nobody else can see, but you feel it, so they're invisible, unfortunately. Codependent says, no, go ahead. Here, I'll go to the store and help you buy another hammer. I'll wipe off the blood for you so that the cops don't think you killed somebody. The universe doesn't do that. And the universe is absolutely committed to shifting everybody to the next level of awareness, which means that if you're not willing to make the shift, you're not going to have to go. You don't have to go if you don't want. It means that there's an experiment of consciousness that your soul is still engaged in. And the universe says, you know what, if you want to keep experimenting, that is your right. We will let you do that. But you're not going to contaminate our world with your bloody hammers. So this is the toughest part right now. What you're going to be seeing now is you're going to be seeing more and more people becoming aware. More and more people are going to start learning and awakening to this higher dimensional thinking. And as more and more people become aware, there's going to be a smaller and smaller population of stubborn, very stubborn, committed people who want to stay in 3D, no matter what they tell you. I'm here to tell you that there are people right now talking about shifting to 5D and exiting the matrix, and they make videos, and some of those people aren't going to make it because they're so wrapped up in victim mentality. They have conflated awakening with being a victim. And that's a very tough place to be. I don't wish that for anybody. My goal is that everybody awakens. I don't want anybody left behind. But I also don't want people who are stuck in that 3D mentality in the 5D world. I don't want them there. They will cause problems. So the good news is everybody can awaken, but it's an inside job. Nobody can do it for you. And so now we're going to talk about choices. So I'm going to say some things that a lot of people might have difficulty with. But this is based on my own experience with myself, 60 years of living, 40 years of spiritual work, therapy, 12-step work, all of it. And my observations, and of course all my years of working with clients and working with people. And what I'm here to say is that even the most insane person, find somebody who has the most horrific mental illness. And I'm not talking about the kind of mental illness that happens because, you got hit in the head or you were born with some kind of deformity. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who have, actual mental illness that comes from emotional, psychological distortion, abuse in childhood, things like that. You take the person who's got the worst mental illness, and what you will find is somebody who at some point, usually very early in their life, infanthood, they began to make choices about how they were going to interact with objective reality. And they made those choices based on a desire to stay alive. When you grow up, and a lot of the people listening to me, I know you've grown up in, I can tell by the, I've just come to find out that a large number of people have grown up in dysfunctional homes that follow my channel. If you've grown up in a dysfunctional home, you made decisions to survive. Now, when you're an infant or a little kid and you've got abusive, dysfunctional craziness going on in your childhood, you have to take certain choices in order to survive. But then what ends up happening is that when you grow into adulthood, you don't have the ability to go, okay, that was really crazy. I don't need to act like that anymore. I can act like a normal person. You don't have that. Well, I was going to say you don't have that ability, but actually you do have that ability. But the pressure, the internal psychological pressure is so strong, it feels as though you don't have a choice. So I'm here to tell you, getting into the fifth dimension cannot be done if you are actively acting in ways that are self-destructive, in ways that devalue you. And I'm not just talking about the obvious ones like, sticking a needle in your neck or, stealing from people or, causing people harm. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being unable to reach out and ask for help when you're in pain. Being unable to take responsibility for your own feelings and desires. Because this is really what it comes down to. The one thing that I've learned, and I can boil it down to one thing. It's simple, but it doesn't mean that it's not complicated. The one thing that all three-dimensional human beings will have to overcome in order to get to 5D is the ability to allow themselves to be completely seen and loved on a deep, intimate level. That is the only thing that causes all challenges in life. Whether it be you're a serial killer or whether you just have some anxiety. It all comes down to that. Anxiety is the feeling that you're not good enough, that you're not lovable enough, that you don't have value, that there's something wrong with you that you need to fix. That's all anxiety is. Fear, that's different. There's there's a polar bear chasing you and you have fear, that's different. But there are only 3 fears that are inborn in you. 3, only 3. If you have more than 3, any fear beyond these 3 is a choice. Now, you may have needed to make that choice if you had an abusive parent. You need to be afraid of, daddy's anger or mommy's whatever, drug addiction. You had to be afraid of that. You're an adult now. You don't need to have those fears, but you still have anxiety, people's opinions, what people are going to do, the feeling of powerlessness over other people's actions, thoughts, and feelings. That causes you anxiety. That is a choice. Even though saying that to you doesn't make it that you can just choose to flip it off. It's a choice that's been now programmed neurally into you, and it doesn't go away easily. But it can go away. You can make different choices. I was on a track and I forgot where I was going with that. But so the 3 fears. There's only 3 fears. Infants have 3 fears. Even completely loved and healthy, perfectly healthy infants who are loved, they all have 3 fears. The first one is the fear of loud noises. That's going to frighten an infant. They'll start crying. That makes sense. That's just obvious. Loud noises could mean problems or something. That's a baby crying, saying, "Mom, come pick me up, get me out of danger." Second fear is the fear of fast-moving objects. Well, that makes sense. Somebody's hurling rocks at you, or a tree branch is falling down towards you. That's going to frighten an infant. Again, his physical safety, his or her physical safety is in jeopardy. So that's a normal fear. That's born into you. The third one, the fear of falling. So if you put an infant on the edge of a cliff and it starts to fall, the kid's going to get scared. Well, that all makes perfect sense, because those are real physical dangers that you need to be aware of. If you don't have those fears, you won't function. You will probably end up dead pretty quickly. So those are fears you have to have. Every single other fear is a choice. Every single other fear is a learned, unnatural fear. So now that I've said that to you, you can meditate on the things that you're afraid of. Now, fear creates anger, because fear is about survival. So you're in a state of craziness. You're in a state of lunacy when there's literally no loud noises, fast-moving objects, or danger of falling off a cliff. If none of those things are happening to you, there's zero need for fear. Somebody having an opinion, somebody loving you, not loving you, respecting you, not respecting you, somebody harming themselves, somebody being whatever they are, any uncomfortable feeling that comes out of you as a result of somebody else's behavior is your choice. You chose to be anxious, angry, fearful, judgmental, needy, feeling needy. All of these things are choices. They don't feel like choices when they're happening to you. And so I'm not trying to dismiss that. But it is extremely important to, at the very least, have the understanding that whatever feeling I'm having right now is my choice. I might not be able to turn it off right now, but I acknowledge that I learned how to turn this feeling on. And I have been continuing to turn it on. I've told you the story many times about when I was 15 years old and I saw some guy, back before we had cell phones where you could call the cops, or back before you could videotape somebody doing something. way back in the 70s. And some car came past us on the highway. Me and a bunch of my friends were walking down the highway. And a car came past us and didn't stop, but slowed down, pushed open the passenger door, and some woman came tumbling out of a moving car. She had been beat up, and she was in shock. And we all gathered around her. We were the first ones to see her. She happened right in front of us. We all gathered around her. We said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And she looked at us, and she was so frightened and in shock, and she couldn't speak. She didn't say a word. We said, and then the guy pulls over and stops. And he gets out and he starts threatening us. We're little kids. We're, between 12 and 16 years old. He's a big, angry adult. And we're telling her that she should come with us. Because the cop station is just, half a mile down the road. Come with us, we'll take you to the cops. Don't get back in the car with this guy. This guy starts threatening me, like he's going to beat the crap out of me. Thankfully, a bunch of other adult males, pull over, and they figure out what's going on, and they pull him aside so, he doesn't pick on some little kid. And, then women and men go to her and say, "We will take you to the cops. Tell us where you want to go. You're safe. This guy can't hurt you. He's not going to hurt you again. We'll get him put in jail." She doesn't say a word to anybody. This goes on for 15 minutes. And when it's all said and done, she gets up, walks over to him, and gets back in the car with him. That was her choice. He didn't have a leash on her. He had no power over her. She chose to get back in the car. You could tell me, well, she was afraid. Right. And fear is a choice. Fear is a choice to believe that the universe does not love you, that the universe is not here to protect you. If that's true, it means that every single situation that you are in, have ever been in, has been your choice. Every disease that you've had. Sorry, I know it doesn't feel like that. But that's what that means. The assumption is that, the base assumption that you chose to disbelieve because of the environment was that the universe didn't love you. You chose to make that belief. It became part of your unconscious programming, and now it just runs you. You are not a real person. You are an automaton. You are a stick figure. You're an action figure. You're a wind-up doll. You no longer feel as though you have the ability to make any decisions or choices for yourself. And this is what people say. What frustrates me, this has been my issue my whole life. My whole life is that I get frustrated with people when I look at them who are choosing to devalue and harm themselves. And this is something I've had to look at, because I've come to realize that it frightens me that I can't help somebody who needs to know this. It angers me when somebody stubbornly chooses to keep that belief system, which always results in self-damage. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better and better at learning to just let people have their choices, because they're not weak beings who are victims. There are no victims. They feel like they are, but they're not. And unfortunately, it's going to take a monumental shift in your awareness and in your effort to choose to act from the belief that the universe loves you and only wants your health and happiness. For some of you, this will feel impossible. For some of you, myself included, when you are faced with that choice, you might even have suicidal ideation. And the reason why people have suicidal ideation when they are faced with the prospect of changing their attitudes and beliefs is because they unconsciously still feel that if they do not continue to devalue themselves, their parents will reject them, even if your parents are dead. Talk to my brother, if you could find him, if he's still alive. He'd be 65 years old if he's still alive, and he's probably still homeless, and he refuses to get off the street. I grew up with him, and I know what he lived through as a kid, and I know that even though my mother is dead, I know that if he's still alive, he's choosing to stay on the street because in his unconscious mind, he will feel as though it will kill his mother. He lived with my mom his whole entire adult life. Never left home. So I know what it feels like to be, to have this channel. If you think having this channel and having the life that I have, if you think it was easy for me, you are wrong. The amount of internal resistance and pain and struggle that I have had to face over decades in order to continue to gain my own freedom, I wouldn't wish on anybody. And the times that I have been the most suicidal have been times when I am taking action towards my own independence. That's why that woman couldn't go with anybody, because if she got in somebody else's car and went to the cops, the pain inside of her would have been worse than the beating she was absolutely going to get if she got back in the car with that man. Because in her mind, at least he loves me. He beats me because he loves me. That's what she tells herself. And of course, she found that guy because he represented something about her parents. It's all about wanting to be loved, and love is what we think will keep us alive. But ironically and sadly, human beings have conflated devaluation with love. Because your parents fed you and clothed you and maybe gave you some positive reinforcement. If your parents were great, then society, the government, church, school, peers, some group or groups of people you associated with, if I am happy, it's because these people accept me. Think about the things people think about. When people want to get their life together and they want to be successful, what is the first thing that they say? They don't talk about, what I really want to do is just find the place that makes me the happiest, and I don't care about money, I just want to do the things that make me happy. Is that what people say? No. They start saying, well, I really want to be successful. I want to have a house and pay a mortgage. And you're asking to have, slave collar put on your neck. We've talked about this before. I'm talking to all those of you who think that owning a house and paying a mortgage is success. You could be paying on that mortgage for 10 years or 20 years. And you could have paid off 2/3 of the loan. And if you miss one payment, that bank can come in, take that house away from you, which means all of the improvements you've put into it, all of the repairs that you've put into it, all of the property taxes you have paid, and all of the interest that you've paid, as well as all of the money that you paid to pay off the loan for the house, and you will get nothing. That could happen. You get sick, you break your leg, you can't go to work, you can't make mortgage payments. All of those tens of thousands of dollars, perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars, gone. You don't get any of it back. Is that fair? The bank doesn't come to you and say, hey, look, you got this $300,000 loan, you paid off 200 grand plus, a bunch of interest payments. And so we've got to get our money back. So we'll give you 150 grand back. We're going to take the house. Sorry. They don't do that. They don't give you any of your money back. They don't even reduce the cost of it because you've added value to it. They go and turn it and sell it for a profit. They make 2, 3, 4 times what they paid for it because you were stupid enough to write on the thing 30-year mortgage and you go, I'm a homeowner. No, you're not. You're a slave. I'm pointing that out not to make people who have mortgages feel bad. I'm pointing that out to say that our values about being valuable in this society have nothing to do with being seen and loved. I can tell you from personal experience interacting with higher dimensional beings who, this is why people ask, how do you know higher dimensional beings can't be evil? Well, until you've been to those dimensions and interacted with them, you won't know what I'm talking about. But there are some things you can't know unless you've experienced it. If somebody doesn't know about gravity and you say, yeah, every time you step off a cliff, you fall to your death. And they go, well, how do you know every cliff? Maybe there's another cliff where gravity isn't as strong. You're like, no, that's not, I'm telling you, that's not how it works. Well, I've never lived in a gravity environment, so I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't believe you. I think some cliffs don't have gravity and maybe some do. That's what it's like to listen to people who say, well, how do you know higher dimensional beings don't have evil intent? How do you know there isn't such thing as evil ETs? Because I can't give you my personal experience unless you do the interdimensional meditation and you find out for yourself. But what I found out by doing that is that the love that these beings have, which by the way is not unique to them, the love that they have is simply reflecting the love that the universe has. We are in a fishbowl, a third dimensional fishbowl that's got a one-way mirror. We can't see out of it. That's why you don't know. That's why you ask these questions. How do you know that higher dimensional beings, that there aren't evil ones? How do you know there aren't good and bad ones? It makes sense to me because in the third dimension there are good and bad people. That's like saying, well, I live in a world where there's no gravity, so it doesn't make sense to me that every cliff has gravity on it, so I'm not going to believe you because my experience doesn't tell me that. Well, if you're coming from the third dimension, you come from a place of isolation. You come from a vibration of self-devaluation that keeps you safe here. Keeps you, the feeling of safe, I use safe in quotes, it keeps you entrenched in the third dimension. It gives you the ability to interact with other frightened, angry people who are trapped in the third dimension. That's why people want to pay a mortgage. I haven't thought about this. I was the same as everybody else. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I thought, I want to get enough money so I can buy a house and have a mortgage like everybody else. You couldn't get me to do that now. There's no way you could get me to do that now. I can walk away from where I'm living and go live wherever I want. Something goes wrong with the house, I call up the landlord. I say, hey man, you got to fix the plumbing. If I don't like it, if something happens, I get to move. It doesn't cost me anything. Why in the heck would I want to be shackled to something that I don't even own, that somebody else owns and can use as leverage over me? So when these beings show you what real love is, you will have fear. And the fear is the fear that you will be annihilated. The fear is you will fear that you will disappear. Perhaps you won't have that fear. I did. I talked about it. And that's because I'm a third dimensional being. And a third dimensional being cannot allow themselves to be truly seen and loved, because then people will really have power over you and can destroy you. This is why we have the term falling in love, because you're out of control. You're falling, and what do people say? I'm scared. I'm falling in love. This is so scary. Ah! It gets too crazy and people leave. What happened? Got too real. I got too close. Well, what if your true environment is an environment where there is nothing but pure love? You will have to be the most vulnerable you've ever been. And you will have to allow yourself to be loved and seen on the deepest level. One of the strangest things that happens to people who communicate with higher dimensional beings is that these beings will tell you unbelievably grandiose things about you. They will tell you how amazing, powerful, beautiful, strong, infinite you are, divine you are. They will start telling you about yourself, and you'll look at your life and you go, how did they come to that conclusion? I haven't seen that. And it will simultaneously be the most blissful thing you've ever heard, and then your brain will kick in, because your fear of dying, because that's what being loved feels like in the third dimension. It feels like it's killing you. The fear of death will trigger your paranoia, and you will start to think, these beings are lying to me. Why are they're telling me something that's not true. They're manipulating me. They're setting me up. Why? Because anybody in the third dimension who comes to you and starts telling you grandiose things about yourself, they're probably a con man setting you up. So you know you can't trust anybody who talks to you like that. Or if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't in the third dimension. But in the fifth dimension, if it's too good to be true in the third dimensions, because that is what truth is. And all of us know instinctively that we deserve to be loved. We all instinctively know that we shouldn't have to go and get $300,000, $500,000 from a bank and tie ourselves to 30 years to some job we can't stand just so that we can have a place to live and say, yeah, I'm a homeowner. As you put your tie on. What the hell are those things anyway? And is there any function in that? You wear some stupid thing with a tie like that. So this is what's coming. All that's going to go away. And if you are addicted to the idea of being relevant in this society, accepting higher dimensional love will be challenging for you. That's why this is an interdimensional revolution. You must completely, totally walk away from the third dimension. And this is why in every real spiritual tradition, even the ones that are faking it, they will all say this, which is, you must forgive everyone. Because to be angry is a choice. To continue to stay angry at somebody is a choice, and it means that you're trying to solve a problem of survival. Because if it wasn't about a problem of survival, you wouldn't be angry. You're driving in your car down the highway, somebody cuts you off. For a good 5 or 10 minutes, you are flipping them off if you're an idiot, because I would never do that. Having been one of those people that's actually followed people home because they flipped me off. I never did anything, I never hurt anybody, but back in my angry days. I'm here to tell you, do not flip people off on the road. It's a very bad idea. But somebody cuts you off and you get angry because you almost lose control of your car and crash. You'll be angry for a little bit until you realize you're safe and nothing's going to happen. And then you will go, oh, you'll forget about it. Do you remember all of the times that you're driving in your car and people cut you off? Nope. Because it doesn't affect your survival. It doesn't affect your perception of your survival. So when you're angry at somebody for something they've done or said in the past, and it still makes you angry, it means that you believe that they have threatened your very existence. Back in the days when if somebody shamed somebody else's family, the father would have to go and strap on a sword or put a pistol in his belt, and they'd have to go and duke it out because the family honor was at stake, which meant the feeling is, if I don't protect my family honor, nobody's going to respect me, and then people will come and cause me harm and I won't be able to make a living. So that insecurity, if you're still angry, it means that you believe other people's thoughts, feelings, and actions have the ability to kill you. And that's ridiculous. You're obviously still alive. So nobody has the ability to harm you because they have a thought, a feeling, or even take an action. Nothing's happening to you right now. You got nothing to worry about. So if you're angry, it means that you're afraid. And if you're afraid, it means you have chosen not to trust the universe. If you're in pain, if you're depressed, if you're still mourning the rejection of your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, it means you still believe that your survival depends on their acceptance and approval of you, which of course is insane. But you feel that. I know, because I've felt that. I know what that feels like. It's very painful. But it means also that you've chosen to hold on to that, because if you were overwhelmingly convinced that your value came from the love the universe has and will always have for you no matter what you do, even if you become a serial killer, the universe will not stop loving you unconditionally. It will never happen. You won't be able to feel that love, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying go ahead and, cause people harm and it's okay because God will love you. That's not what that means. You won't be able to feel it. You have to act in accordance with that. So you have to be loving towards others and yourself to feel the universe's love. But every time you operate from fear, it means you do not believe the universe loves you. And that is a choice you made. You made that choice sometime in your life, probably when you were a little kid, because you had to in order to placate somebody else in the hopes that they would love you, which would mean to you that you would survive and be safe. And those are all choices. You choose those beliefs. So that's why there's no victims. No victims. And if you're willing to do the work, you can have your perception line up with the truth. Which means that in the beginning, if you have been programmed to be fearful, angry, depressed, those feelings may not go away immediately. If you act in accordance with your soul, as we talked about yesterday, and you take actions towards only those things that give your soul joy, there is a good possibility that at first, all of those negative feelings will crop up. You will feel afraid, you will feel anxious, you will feel frightened, you will feel angry, you will feel depressed. The days that you need to get up and go take the action towards your happiness the most, some of those days will be the days that you're the most suicidal and don't want to leave home. But you're going to have to act contrary to that. And this is the biggest thing that everybody asks me when I tell them about there are no victims and you must act fearlessly and take action. The most common question people ask me is, how can I get over my fear? And I always respond the same way. I said, when did I ever tell you you were supposed to get over your fear? The only thing I've told you is that you're supposed to take action towards what your soul wants, regardless of any feelings. Because the assumption is, I can't take an action towards anything unless it feels good. That, unfortunately, is what you've been taught. Unless it feels good. Unless I feel safe. Unless I know. You know, like some people will say, how do I know she's ever going to love me? You know, like, how can I get her to prove her love to me? Well, you can't. You have to trust. And the way that you prove to the universe that you trust the universe's love is by taking actions in accordance with that love. And I'm here to tell you that the universe only wants you to be happy. And the universe only wants you to take actions towards your happiness. And when you take actions towards your happiness, the universe says, oh, you're doing that thing that makes everything else in the universe happy. What do you need? Let me give you more stuff. You need money, you need clothes, you need a house, you need health. What is it that you need? I'm going to give you everything that you need because look, all the plants are growing and the birds are singing and the people are happy because you're taking action towards your soul. The universe doesn't go, well, I mean, yeah, you took action towards your soul, but you didn't feel like it. You know, you've been around people like that? Where you do something for them, you know, like you spend a lot of money on them or you sacrifice something and maybe you didn't want to do it. And you did it because you knew it would make them happy. You knew it was difficult and they go, yeah, but you didn't really want to do that. You were just doing it to... You're like, holy crap, I'm still out $100. I don't understand what the problem is. I'm doing my best. The universe doesn't care how you feel. Sorry. I mean, the universe does want you to be happy, don't get me wrong. But in the moment that you're taking action towards what you want, the universe is not judging you on how you feel, but you are. You are judging yourself on your feelings. This is why a lot of people who do destructive things, they justify it by saying, I don't feel any guilt. I enjoy doing it. I don't have any regrets over punching that guy or stealing that or doing that. I got what I wanted. You think that a feeling means something. And a feeling is just simply an emotional reaction. Joy, bliss, love, these things are eternal. These things exist underneath all of the other feelings. But in order to get to the love that's underneath all the feelings, you have to become very, very vulnerable. You have to let the universe see everything, which means you're going to have to go through the pain. You're going to have to mourn all the people that you're angry at. You're then going to have to get past the anger, you're going to have to go to the pain and mourn that they didn't love you, that they didn't see you and treat you and value you. And that's all it is. Your girlfriend cheated on you with somebody else and left him, divorced you and took the dog. You're full of rage and you're angry. But once you get past the anger, then you cry because you loved her. And she didn't see you. She didn't value your love. And that's hurtful. You have to cry, let it go, and forgive. Cry, let it go, and then allow her to have her choices, his choices, their choices. You know, I was watching Lost. I'm watching that over again. You know, I'm binge watching that before I'm going to bed. And as you know, I used to be a Hollywood actor. Yeah, I know, you never saw me in anything, but I was there. And I remember I had this small role in, I forget the name, it's a series, you probably wouldn't even know what it was. I don't even remember the name of it. Briscoe County Jr. If any of you have been alive long enough to remember that. I had a small role in an episode of Briscoe County Jr. And Anyways, the guy who is the lead actor in that is in that. The guy who plays the one-eyed Russian guy in Lost. And I had forgotten about that, and we were moving up to that, and then all of a sudden, he was introduced, and you saw, I didn't, right? And then I became aware that that feeling was trying to fix a problem, which I no longer have. It's an old feeling. I don't have any desire to be a Hollywood actor, especially now. I have zero interest in that. I can't imagine a worse life for me. I'm very happy in the life that I have. So I thought, this feeling that's coming up is trying to solve a problem that I don't have. So I'm going to stop feeling this. And I let it go. And as soon as I let it go, I felt a bunch of energy come in to me. So there's another little thing I just got over. Now I'm closer to my authentic self. I realized it was a choice, it wasn't a reaction, because you think you have a feeling and it's a reaction and you don't have any choices over it. But it was a reaction. It was an old reaction based on old stuff, and my nervous system kicked in with that feeling of anger towards that guy who didn't do anything to me. It's not his fault I didn't make it as an actor. Good for him. He was successful. The only difference is I acted with him, so he, somehow it's his fault. It's just ridiculous. But that's exactly what happens. Every single time you think of your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your ex-wife, your ex-girlfriend, the government, Biden, Trump, Satan, God, Jesus. Anytime you think of something or somebody and it creates a feeling of anger and fear in you, you're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist, because the problem assumes that there's something wrong with you. When I had that feeling and I got angry when I saw whatever his name was, God, I wish I could remember his name. He had the same agent as I did. I can't remember his name. Anyway, when I saw that, the feeling was trying to solve a survival problem that I had back then. Because back then, if I didn't make it as an actor, I wasn't going to make any money, and I was going to be homeless, and nobody would respect me, and I wouldn't be able to shove it in my parents' face and tell them, screw you, I made it. All those things that I wanted to do, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So my survival, I thought, depended on me being a successful actor. And that's just not true anymore. None of that's true. So that feeling was trying to solve a survival problem that doesn't exist. And that's what happens to you every single time that you're angry, every single time that you're depressed, every single time that you're full of fear or even anxiety, confused. Every time you have those feelings, you're trying to solve a survival problem that doesn't exist. And the assumption is that you're not worthy. The assumption I had was, if I don't make it as an actor, I'm no good. I'm worthless. I'm a screw up. I'm not worthy to be loved or respected. I didn't know that's what I was thinking, but that's what was underneath that, because I had made that decision that the way that I was going to get success and respect in the world was I was going to be a famous movie actor. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're thinking about the guy that cut you off yesterday in traffic. It's the same feeling as the one that I just said. So you have to choose. You must choose to trust the universe, and if you don't feel it, no problem. Act as though you do. If you take actions as though investing that money in a business, making that move, asking that girl out, whatever it is that you want and you're afraid of, if you take action towards it as though the universe will give you what you need, the universe will then be able to give you what you need. It will be able to love you. And you do that, you are saying to the universe, I have value simply because I exist. And in order to enjoy my existence, I'm going to do the things that give me pleasure and happiness. That's how I validate my own existence in this three-dimensional reality. And the universe says, yes, that's the correct way to do it. Here's all of the things you need. We're so happy for you. We're so happy that you're doing what you want. That's all we've ever wanted from you. Whereas the guy who's working 60 hours a week at a job he can't stand so he can pay the mortgage on a house that he doesn't own, that can be taken away from him at any moment, the universe is going, I want to give you stuff, but you're telling me that you don't have any value. You're telling me your value is based on whether or not you got a good credit score and can get a loan for a house. And that's just not true. We all love you because you exist. We don't care if you, the universe doesn't care if you have a mortgage or a good credit score. The universe doesn't care if you have credit card debt. All right. So let's see. I think I talked around all that stuff. So yeah, I can feel a lot of energy. It continues to increase. I think we're getting closer and closer to the event. I do believe that my instincts were right about September and September 23rd. Didn't happen the way some of us thought, but I absolutely believe that there was a crescendo and a shift that happened. I think things are going downhill and that the ascension is accelerating. I believe that October is going to be even more instrumental. I do not know when the event will happen, if it is a singular event. All of the information I've been getting from these guys say that it is going to be a singular event, but I don't know that. If I were to make a guess, I would say that October is a very good possibility for an event to occur. There's a lot more astrological things. Things are getting more intense. I think if there's going to be a governmental shift, I believe we will see it in October. So it's important that you do the work so that you can stay awake and be on the good receiving end of this. And be willing to drop all of the craziness. And if you need help, the best thing I can offer you is the 90-day challenge, the Qigong, and the 12 steps to 5D, which we have on this channel, and the interdimensional meditation. All right. So as you know, I don't take any questions unless I recognize you and you are subscribed. If you're not subscribed, I'm not going to answer any questions. But seriously, guys, hopefully what I've said has spurred you to be willing to take the actions, because that's the only thing that matters here. Taking the actions, regardless of how you feel, is the only thing that will save you. And as long as you're going towards your soul, as long as you're doing your best and facing and letting go of those self-devaluing actions and patterns in your life, 5D will come for you. All right, nothing else. Yeah, Bruce Campbell, was that him? No, that wasn't Bruce Campbell. I understand why you're confusing him with Bruce Campbell. That wasn't him. No, actually, I'm conflating Bruce Campbell with that guy. I wish I could remember his name. Anyway, no, he wasn't on Briscoe County Jr. at all. Was I in? I was in something he was in, though, I think. Anyway, it was a long time ago, and it doesn't matter. That's it for me, guys. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. I love you all. And if the event, the solar flash, doesn't come, and or the Starship Enterprise doesn't beam me up, I will see you all very soon. Take care.